Are we good to go, Mo?
We are good to go.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 1 week delayed February Airport Commission meeting, February 23rd, 2022. Before we get into the agenda, just a couple of housekeeping items. There's several opportunities for members of the public to speak. On each agenda item, there is an opportunity for the public to speak, and we'll work on that separately as we get to those agenda items. And then also, there's the opportunity for the public to speak on any item that is not on tonight's agenda, but is within the purview of the Airport Commission. So if there's a pothole you want fixed in front of your house, then that's probably a public works thing. But if it's something that's within the purview of the Airport Commission or involving airport business, but it's not on the agenda tonight, we'll ask for public comment on that item in the very beginning. And then lastly, for those of you who are regular or not regular attendees, we have a thing called a consent calendar, I think virtually every meeting. And what's on the consent calendar are considered very routine items. Very routine, typically completely administered by the airport staff, and typically don't have a lot of conversation or questions, not as though you can't ask questions. But when we get to the consent calendar, I will read off tonight's 3 items on the consent calendar. And rather than ask for public comment on each one and commissioner questions on each one, which typically there are none of either, I will read the 3 items on the consent calendar and then ask if there's any public comment or any airport commissioner questions. And if not, then I'll ask that it get approved as read. So those are just the housekeeping items. If you have a cell phone, please mute it. If you have an animal, my cat often likes to join the Zoom meetings. I fed him, so he's off to the side. And with that, Mo, I'd like to call the February 23rd Airport Commission meeting to order and ask you for a roll call.
Thank you, Commissioner or Chair Curry. Commissioner Goodman has been excused from the evening tonight. So Commissioner Reed. Here. Commissioner Glazier.
Here.
Commissioner Bowen.
Here.
Vice Chair Houghton.
Here.
Commissioner Maya.
Here.
Chair Arcuri.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Awesome. Do we have any changes to the agenda, Mo? Oops, I saw your lips move, but you're on mute.
I'll defer to the airport director on that question.
Mr. Airport Director, Mr. Interim Airport Director, I believe is the appropriate terminology. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No.
Alrighty. So notices that on Friday, February 18th, 2022, at 5 p.m., the Airport Commission Secretary, AKA Mo, duly posted this agenda on the bulletin board at the Airport Administration. Next item on the agenda is public comment on any item not on tonight's agenda, but is within the purview of the Airport Commission. And I should have said at the outset before we call the meeting to order, the public comment is 3 minutes and a total sum of 15 minutes. And so what I would ask the public to do if they have input on any subject, to be respectful of that 3 minutes for future speakers. So Mo, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda tonight, but within the purview of the Airport Commission?
If you're a member of the public, like you're listening to this now, if you would click on the raised hand icon in your webinar control screen, that tells me that you wish to make a public comment. And I do have 3 raised hands, Chair Arcuri. Let's start. Let's start with Jim Wilson.
Okay, Jim Wilson, go ahead. Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm doing well, and it appears that you are also.
Are you lamenting the fact that you're not on the airport commission and you're begging us to come back?
Very much so. I'm ready.
Okay.
And of course, that's one of the things that I wanted to comment on tonight. That I was disappointed when the December meeting was canceled and I did not have the opportunity to make a graceful withdrawal and to tell everyone, commission and staff alike, what an honor and a pleasure the last 8 years has been. Working with all of you has been a great experience for me. And I want to thank all of you for that time. The second item that I'd like to comment on is the minimum standard. I think it's important that we keep our eye on the goal. And there are really two things that are important. One is to maintain grant eligibility. The other is to provide an equitable and sound business environment. The first is fairly easy. There's been some conflict with flying clubs. That shakes out pretty directly if you quote Part 4, Chapter 10, Section 10.6 in the minimum standard. That takes care of that.
Jim, I apologize profusely for interrupting you. Mo, I noticed you haven't started the timer. If you could start that, go ahead, Jim.
My
Okay,
apologies.
well, I will wrap up quickly. The second is not addressed so clearly in the regulations, and that's the special service providers. And I would include the independent flight instructors in this group. And in reality, the solution is, what is a sound business practice? Would a well-run company allow a cadre of unsupervised, unknown people use their premises for their own profit? And I think the answer to that question is no. So I would like for you to keep those issues in mind. Thank you very much, and I miss you all.
Mr. Wilson, former Commissioner Wilson, thank you for your comments. Mo, who's next?
Vince Merstick. Vince, would you unmute yourself and begin speaking?
Good evening. My name is Vince Merstick. I'd like to offer a suggestion that might be helpful in improving the effectiveness of the Airport Commission meeting. During the last 7 or 8 years that I have observed the commissioner meeting, it seems to me that on many occasions, individual commissioners are placed in an uncomfortable position, voting on issues with only very limited information. In such a situation, a commissioner frequently votes as recommended by the chairman. This clearly does not achieve the city's desire to benefit from independent commissioners. In order to have a meaningful independent vote, each commissioner must have an opportunity to acquire the necessary information to meaningfully vote on issues that come before the commission. Some dialogue amongst the commissioners would go a long way toward this goal. Unfortunately, very little dialogue seems to occur. I have observed many instances of the airport administration presenting material or the public making significant statements that clearly merit discussion amongst the commissioners. Seldom does such discussion ensue. The problem is compounded by the Brown Act, which limits discussion amongst the commissioners. Specifically, a simple majority of commissioners cannot meet to discuss any issue without scheduling a public meeting. In the case of the three-member sub-panels, this means that no sub-panel member can talk to any of his co-panel members without scheduling a public meeting. This is a significant limitation. In response to this situation, I would like to suggest airport commissioners, each of you individually, use these commission meetings to fully discuss the issues prior to any vote. The chairman should encourage such dialogue. This would provide each commissioner with an opportunity to make a more informed decision or to abstain on any vote. Commissioners, please speak up and discuss the issues amongst yourself. This is very, very important so that good decisions are reached. And I haven't seen that going on in the past. So thank you for your time. And Secretary Graham, I'll give you this in writing and perhaps you can include my remarks in the minutes of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Mo, it looks like we have one more person.
We have one more. It is Carl Hopkins. And Carl, would you unmute yourself and begin speaking?
Former Commissioner Hopkins, welcome.
Thank you very much. I have one comment and one question. They're both related. The comment is I would urge the airport as soon as possible to get out of the Zoom business and into in-person meetings with the possibility of having Zoom as an option for those who are unable to attend. That's my comment. My question is, do you have any such plans, and if so, when? That's all I have to say.
Okay, Mo, thank you, former Commissioner Hopkins. Nice to hear your voice. Mo, do we have any other public comment on items not on the agenda tonight?
We do not.
Alrighty. We'll move on to the liaison reports. I think I saw Councilmember Friedman. I believe he is here. Councilmember Friedman, do you have a report for us? Santa Barbara, Councilman Friedman.
Hi, Chair Curry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on my iPad. I'm not used to using this. So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. I don't really have much of a report today, but I'm interested to see what's on the agenda. And I know that we are going to be going forward with getting a consultant to do the hydrology study for the hangars. That's in the works. It's coming to council soon. So that'll be looking forward, because that's a major issue that I know people are interested in. So that is in the process and will be taking place over the coming months. So we can begin the process for what to do with the hangars and how to reuse them and restore them. So that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Friedman. And I'm scanning the list. I do see Kyle Richards. So Goleta Liaison Councilmember Kyle Richards, do you have a report for us?
Good evening. Good to see you tonight. Nice to be with you, at least in this fashion. A couple things. First of all, I want to just thank Maureen and Sarah Isa for providing some documents. I reached out last week and I got a real quick response. So I wanted to say thank you so much. We were looking for the airport master plan, specific plan, and some other documents, and they were very helpful. So thank you. It would be even more helpful if these documents were readily available on the website. So I think you might already have somebody working on that, but I just wanted to provide that feedback, if at all possible, to have that so that anyone from the public can get those without having to ask. Otherwise, I did want to report on February 1st, I joined some staff from the airport, including Brian, the interim director, and various other staff from the airport, as well as some folks from Southwest. So we met at the Bacara, the Ritz-Carlton Bacara, Santa Barbara, which is in the city of Goleta, as well as the manager from what used to be the Kimpton Goodland Hotel, to talk about what Southwest's opportunities are in terms of connecting to the hotels and the tourism industry in the greater Goleta area, which I guess would include Santa Barbara. And finally, I just wanted to mention that at the last meeting, I had reported that the city of Goleta is celebrating our 20th birthday, our 20th anniversary. It was to have been on Saturday, February 5th. Because of the Omicron variant and what happened, we ended up postponing it by a month. So it will be this coming Saturday, next Saturday, March 5th. Same time and place. It's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Stowe House at La Patera, Rancho La Patera. So if you're available, we'd love to have you. Please join us, celebrating 20 years of the city of Goleta. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards, and happy birthday, Galita. With that, we'll move on to item 5, subcommittee assignments. Due to an error on my part, as I was rolling through that riveting subject last month, I made an omission in a suggestion that I would like to correct tonight, and that is on the Air Service Committee. I want to acknowledge that, not so much on the Air Service Committee, I want to acknowledge previously Dan Glazer's involvement in the Visit Santa Barbara and the many discussions that happened with Southwest Airlines, which helped to bring them here to the airport. He is an obvious good choice to be on the Air Service Committee, which primarily deals with the airlines, if not solely. And so I went through the list of committee assignments, and I noticed that Paul Bowen is energetically involved in many of them. And I was hoping that Paul would be willing to step off of that committee and that Dan Glazer would be willing to serve on that committee. That's the Air Service Committee. So first, I think for politeness, Paul, would you have any issues stepping off that to make room for Dan Glazer?
I have no issue stepping off of that to make room for such a qualified replacement.
Well, thank you, Paul. And then the other half of this equation would be, Dan Glazer, are you willing to serve on that committee?
Yes, I would be honored. Thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you, Paul.
And thank you for your part of the efforts. And I know it involved many, many people and many organizations to get Southwest Airlines here, which I have used multiple times to get to Las Vegas and see some shows and lose a lot of money. So Mo, if you could change just that one item, that one subcommittee, and the printout you gave me the other day, I of course lost. So would you just read back for me now with this change, who is on that subcommittee, just for the record, and who the alternate is?
On the Air Service Subcommittee, the chair is Dennis Houghton, and then the committee members are Dan Glazer, Levi Maya, and the alternate is Craig Arcuri.
Awesome. Okay, we will put that one to rest. Mo, is there any I's that need to be dotted or T's that need to be crossed in this, or can I move on?
You can move on. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
I'm sorry. We probably do need a motion to change that subcommittee. I apologize.
Okay. Well, the principal, Tava, is not here tonight, so we almost got away with that, didn't we? So I'd like to make a motion that we update the Air Service Committee as Mo read. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And Mo, if you do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, we have a motion to update the Air Service Subcommittee from Paul Bowen as a member to Dan Glazer serving on the committee, and Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Glazer.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowen.
Aye.
Commissioner Maya.
Yes.
Vice Chair Houghton.
Aye.
And Chair Arcuri.
Yes, indeed.
All right, the motion passed.
Alrighty. And with that, we'll move on to the director's report. But before we do that, I would like to acknowledge with sorrow the departure of Deanna, who is moving on to bigger but not better weather pastures. Deanna Zackerson is moving on. I think her last day is this week. Is that correct, Mo? The end of this week?
I'm actually, Commissioner Arcuri, I'm actually hanging on until the 11th of March.
See, it's hard to, Santa Barbara's a hard place to leave. So I want to thank Deanna for her service since 2016. I'm sad that we're not in person, that we could express that gratitude in person. But thanks for your efforts on behalf of Santa Barbara Airport and your connection with Visit Santa Barbara and some of the big things we're able to achieve, you were able to achieve with those folks during this time. And so you'll be missed. Good luck in your new position. And if you discover the grass is not greener on the other side, we'll tell you, we told you so. and probably welcome you back. So, and of course, I can't speak for the city on that behalf. But anyway, we want to wish you the best of luck on behalf of the Airport Commission, the members of the community of Santa Barbara and Goleta and surrounding area, and I'm sure the staff of Santa Barbara. We truly wish you the best of luck, and you'll be missed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
With that, Director, I'll look for the Director Moore, the Airport Director's report.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Arcuri, and I will echo exactly what you said. Deanna will be greatly missed. We're excited for her and the opportunity that she's got to go down to San Diego and continue the great work that she's done in her career down there. And I just hope she'll respond to emails and answer my phone calls when I'm desperate for answers to things.
I'm thinking of that song, that 80s song, "Don't You Forget About Me."
So my report tonight is pretty brief, but I did want to say a few things before turning to our management team, who will share some highlights from their areas. And first of all, I did want to acknowledge that the learning curve for me in this role continues to be very steep. Just when I think I'm getting a handle on things, I discover whole new areas that I didn't previously know about, and continue to see that there are many other unexplored places for me out here. So it's been very interesting, and I don't know when it'll let up. Some people have told me it never will. So hopefully I can find a sustainable pace. But it's been great in my efforts to kind of get to know what's going on and who's out here. I've gotten to meet with a lot of different people. And one thing I've witnessed has been an enthusiasm for aviation that I would say is unlike anything I experienced in public works. And it's really neat, just kind of across the board. Everybody who's out here has some kind of connection and enthusiasm for aviation. And that's been really cool. I've appreciated seeing that. And then also just the dedication to the success of this airport is also a common thing that I've seen out there. And that's been amazing. So I just wanted to share my observations on that. And then next, I did want to address something that was mentioned. Well, a couple of things I'm probably going to mention that were said during public comment, but there is one item that is perhaps conspicuously absent from the agenda this time as it was last month, and that is the minimum standards. And I do recognize that there are some people who are anxiously awaiting action on the revised minimum standards. And I want to acknowledge that work is ongoing on this important effort. It has not been paused. It's taken me some time to get up to speed on it. And staff are currently working with our consultant team to review and address what really has been a wide variety of public comments that we received on the draft standards. So we will return to the commission as soon as possible with an update on that. I don't know that I can say right now that we will be at the commission for sure next month on minimum standards, but I hope when I say soon that it's in the next month or two. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and put that out there on minimum standards. It is actively being pursued by staff. And then the other thing that was mentioned in public comment that I was planning to share in the director's report is the public meetings and the format. Hopefully Zoom is an upgrade from GoToMeetings, but it's still a virtual meeting. And I've heard from a number of people a desire to get back to in person, and I would like that. I prefer that. I think the council is getting close to going back to in person, and I believe the different boards and committees have at their discretion to go back when they feel it's appropriate to do so. So possibility we could be in person again as early as next month, which because we delayed this meeting 1 week, I guess is probably only a few weeks away. But I'm hoping we'll be back in person relatively soon, if not next month. I think in springtime for sure. And I think that's all that I had that I wanted to share. I guess I didn't have it in my notes here, but passenger count for January, for those interested in numbers, we're 257% above January of 2021, which sounds really good, but that's not a month we really want to benchmark ourselves against. If we compare to January of 2020, we are below that number. So there is an Omicron effect, which I think we're going to see vanish here very quickly as soon as we get the February number. February is probably going to look much better than January, but we're not done yet. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll provide updated numbers as we have them. So that's all I had. I'm going to turn things over to the management team here to share some updates from their areas. And starting off with Deanna, you have some updates for us, please.
All righty. Well, this is my last commission meeting with you all, and it has been a pleasure and an honor and just an incredible learning experience to be here at Santa Barbara these last 6 years. It's been great to add small airport experience to my large airport experience, and now I'm going to a medium-sized airport. So trying them all out for size. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a couple of updates on things I think would be of interest. Brian and I just returned from a series of airline meetings last week. And there's good news, and there is certainly struggles with the airlines. One of the carriers told us that was very memorable that demand is not the problem right now for the carriers. It's staffing issues and pilot issues and, well, mostly pilot issues, frankly. But sort of the current state of affairs with market share, I think is kind of an interesting, it's an interesting story for us because, of course, a year ago, we did not have Southwest Airlines at all at this airport. And I think that most remember that United has traditionally been a 50% or more carrier of the market share. So currently our market shares are at Southwest at 35% of the market, United at 31% of the market, American at 26%, and Alaska at 8%. So that does represent a at least historic low for United. Otherwise, demand, like I said, is great. American is going to be adding 50% capacity to the summer schedule. We'll have 2 daily 319 aircraft to DFW, which is more than we've ever had. And there's some other options for upgauging, particularly on the Seattle route. There's more than enough passengers for that route. Otherwise, we are getting encouraging signs on the return of the Chicago service for summer. We understand now that we should know within 2 weeks exactly what that schedule is going to look like. But all in all, things looking very, very good on the air service side for Santa Barbara. On the property management side, just quickly noting that Atlantic Aviation has taken possession of their new service center building on Cook Place and are now commencing with their renovation of that building, anticipated to be complete in September of this year. And one remaining tenant in that building, which we have a lease for this evening on the agenda, Innovati, has nearly completed their relocation out of that building. So we're making some significant progress there. So that's all for now. And I'd like to do a plug for the plane pull on Saturday, the 26th. I know there are many people that are involved in that to come out and support Alpha Resource Center, and Alaska Airlines will be bringing in a plane that day for us to try to move by rope. So Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Deanna. Next up, I'm going to have Andrew Bermond go and give an update on facilities.
There I am. I'm unmuted. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission, and Mr. Moore. I'll be very brief. Our 10-year rehabilitation of the boarding bridges is underway. Boarding Bridge 1 remains out of service as we continue to work on some long overdue refresh so that it'll be working good as new for years to come. And we hope to wrap that up soon, hopefully this week, so that we can move on to bridges 2 and 4, which will also be done in the coming weeks. I also just want to mention that we've added some new staff. Both Luis Diaz and Rudy Flores have joined the division as maintenance worker 2s, and Andy Ursino joined our custodial team last month. And that's all I have from the facilities division. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Next would be Aaron Keller, Airport Operations Manager.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, Chair and Airport Commission. Pleasure to be with you all this evening. And I just have a couple quick reports. First off, the airport participated in a runway safety action team meeting with the FAA and some of our local partners. Happy to report that there were no significant findings regarding runway safety. We did come up with one recommendation regarding one of our hot spots on the airport, specifically with regard to runway 15 left and runway 15 right, and just a recommendation to study that for potential geometry changes. And that's going to be a longer term project, but something that is currently designated as a hot spot per the FAA today and may need some type of correction down the road. So that's going to be a study that will be initiated in partnership with the airport consultants and FAA. Second to that, I just want to share that we will be participating in our annual emergency exercise, the tabletop, on March 14th. This is where we bring in all of our mutual aid partners, emergency responders, the Red Cross, the varying fire departments in the surrounding jurisdictions, as well as the local police agencies, to figure out how we're going to respond to 2 different types of events. One being a unmanned aircraft system, UAS, drone for short, and how we would handle that from a security perspective. And then second to that will be how we would respond to an inbound aircraft that experiences an engine fire. So what this drill does for us, it allows us to sit across the table from one another, albeit via Zoom, just as in the way the timing is, and discuss how each agency will respond. This will be over a brand new rewritten airport emergency plan that we intend to present to the mutual aid responders, make sure that it's in line with their response plans, and then that will ultimately be submitted to the FAA for approval prior to our May inspection, which will be our next 139 airport safety inspection conducted by the certification inspectors. Followed by that, we'll move into September, which will be our next full-scale triennial exercise. That's going to require some very intensive planning. A lot of community involvement is the goal. And we've not embarked on the planning effort. We're going to take care of the first emergency exercise first, and then move into the full-scale exercise planning immediately following our March exercise. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. And our other manager that we have on this call, we're going to hear from as part of item number 10, the capital projects. That's Sarah Iza, our land development manager. So I'll hold off on bringing her into the mix for this item. So that concludes the airport director's report, and available if there are any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Director Demore. And it's pronounced D'Amour, correct?
It is pronounced Demore.
Demore, okay. Well, I covered both cases, so okay.
Yes.
And thank you to your staff for that report. Since I'm flapping my lips, I'll ask a couple of questions I have, and then we'll ask the other commissioners and then look for public comment. So if you're thinking about public comment, be thinking about that. You'll have an opportunity briefly, or you'll have an opportunity shortly. Deanna, the drop in United from 50-something% to 30-something% is primarily due to the addition of Southwest in making a bigger overall number, of which United is now a smaller piece of a bigger pie, if you will, as opposed to United ending service. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. United has actually pretty much recovered their schedule from pre-pandemic, with the exception of some reductions still on the Los Angeles and SFO side, a bit fewer frequencies. But essentially, they're back up to where they were. It's just it is in fact a bigger pie, and it is being split by more folks. And then obviously Southwest, with the 737 aircraft that they use consistently, you know, they're just boarding a lot of people on those planes. So that's pretty much what we expected and hoped would happen.
Yeah, my 3 trips to Vegas have been on a full Southwest flight. A question on the facilities. Are we at full staff on facilities maintenance?
I have an offer out for one vacant position. Assuming that is accepted, I would have a full staff, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, and I think I should know this, but the hotspot that was referred to that will be further studied on 15 left and 15 right, that is where those cross 25 in the 2 areas and 257, is that correct?
That is correct, Chair. What is occurring is aircraft that are either, I would say more predominantly landing on runway 7 are looking for taxiway Bravo. They will cross runway 15 right. Then they see a much narrower runway when they see 15 left, thinking that's taxiway Bravo, and they inadvertently turn onto runway 15 left, thinking it is taxiway Bravo, headed to the Atlantic Aviation Facility today or to the terminal.
Yeah, understood. I'm laughing not because I've ever done that, but okay, thank you. No more questions for me. Maybe we'll just go down on the order of the list I see here. Commissioner Goodman's out here. Commissioner Reed, do you have any questions on the director's report? I'm betting you're muted and you're saying no, or maybe you're muted and saying you do. Could you unmute, and do you have any questions on the director's report?
I do not, no. I had questions concerning some recent emails that we have received from the public. I'm not sure if that's necessarily when I should be asking this.
Well, the director's report is pretty broad, so I'd say you are able to maybe summarize that, and then the director can respond back that it's that this isn't the form or time for it, or he can. So go ahead.
Okay, it was in regards to, I know that there had been some questions and some concern of the definition of a level playing field. And I wasn't sure if that had been addressed yet. So I just wanted to follow up with that.
Director D'Amour, any comments, or is that a future item?
Well, that definitely gets into the heart of the minimum standards issue. So I don't think we're able to get into a discussion on that here tonight, but I've seen those emails and we're reviewing everything we have.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Reed? Okay. Commissioner Glazier, do you have any questions on the director's report?
No question, Commissioner, Chair. But I do want to make a comment. First and foremost, Deanna, you are a huge asset to the community, the city. Your work helping us recover from that COVID recession was incredible and invaluable. By leveraging the relationships you built over the years that you were here and expanding that air service was critical in really helping our local businesses bounce back from what we went through over the last couple of years. You're the steady voice of the airport over the past 5 or 6 years, and I thank you. And San Diego is very lucky, so you're going to be missed.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Commissioner Maya, do you have any questions on the director's report?
Yeah, just a quick question. I know last month we heard from Ms. Berger regarding a lease at 6100 Hollister for the business Dean's Beans. I just wondered if there had been any update about that. I think it was 10 months that she had been waiting for a decision from staff and potentially this commission about that lease.
Well, Deanna or Director Demore, any input?
I can certainly comment on that if
Go ahead.
Brian would like me to do so.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, things have taken some time with that business arrangement. It isn't quite as simple as that. We've just been waiting to make a decision about it. Yes, we looked at that business opportunity back in April of last year. There were some submitted plans to the building department that required sort of addressing the business proposal with that business. In the meantime, we found that we were dealing with a pretty significant parking problem over at 6100 Hollister, and we were working to address that issue. At the current point, we are looking at scheduling a meeting, and that may actually be scheduled with the potential tenants to talk about the situation, talk about the potential for making it work, what the concerns are, and essentially just trying to get ourselves back on the same page. So obviously not an ideal situation that it takes quite so long, but there were some factors that were at play there that sort of explained the situation. So I hope that answers the question, more or less.
Commissioner Maya, any other questions?
No, thank you. I just would like to make sure that we stay on top of this and all of our arrangements with tenants so that people aren't left to wonder what's happening. And important to keep the lines of communication open. And from her comments, it seemed like she was a little bit in the dark. So I just wanted to be sure that I was advocating for her in the sense that we should be making a prompt decision when we're ready.
Thank you, Commissioner Maya. Commissioner Bowen, do you have any questions?
Yes, a few things I'd like to lead off with. Thank you, Deanna, for all your hard work, the things you've done to help make this airport go, and best wishes to you in your new location. Also, thank you to the airport staff for all the work they've been doing to support the Alpha airplane pool. Me and my team will be there pulling hard for Alpha Resource Center. I did have questions regarding the Southfield redevelopment project. And I guess I'm curious, the last time I looked at what we were going to do with the two FBO leases is that we were going to hand some hangars that are currently Signature would get transferred over to Atlantic, so that Atlantic would have some hangars that are on the east side of 1-5. And then Atlantic is going to be based on the west side of 1-5. And there was two issues that I wanted to revisit on that. One was that those tenants in those hangars won't have access to bathrooms anymore. And the second was a suggestion of, or asking if there could be any kind of marked boundary line between the two FBOs just to prevent disputes.
Ooh, well, I can address that question, I suppose. So to the latter part of your question as to a delineation line between the two FBOs, I think we're going to need to look at that from an operations standpoint and just see if that is something that's practically feasible. I know that we currently have some areas on the north end that where there's a delineation between what is signatures and what is airport. And people over time have sort of developed some landmarks that tells them what is what, but it is entirely possible that we'll need to augment that. The relocation otherwise of Atlantic to the north side, there are a number of puzzle pieces that go in that whole mix. There will be tie-down locations down at the south end that will be replacing the city tie-down area where Atlantic will be assuming management of that area. Hangar-wise, there will be some instances where tenants who are currently tenants of Signature will be switching over and becoming tenants of Atlantic, just based on where the premises are. And there are a couple of hangars of the temporary portable kind that are going to need to be relocated out of their current locations. It is complicated, and yes, it is something that needs to be worked out and addressed in cooperation with the FBOs and, of course, operations and facilities. So I hope that sheds a little light on that question.
Well, thank you for that, and we're hoping it all works out well. I know it's a tough job. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowen. Commissioner Houghton, do you have any questions on a director's report?
I do, and it's a comment directed to Deanna. Deanna, you've been an incredible person to work with in my past 3 years. I always want to sit next to you at functions because you've exhibited such great leadership and your staff adores you. And I know it's got to be really hard on them. But I just want to thank you for all of your extraordinary efforts. And then I have a comment regarding or a question regarding air service, because that's my little keen area of interest. Any update on Delta to Salt Lake City?
Yes, Commissioner Houghton. So there is a bit of an update with Delta. I should say that we have had ongoing conversations with Delta every time we have had an opportunity to do so. And from the very outset of signs of recovery from the pandemic, Delta has been clear that they intend to return to Santa Barbara. Their withdrawal from markets in the LA basin that we belong to was essentially done in a sort of a last in, first out fashion. And their absolute intent from the beginning is that they would be back in the summer of 2022. Unfortunately, they did offer a pretty lucrative retirement package to many of their pilots, and they are finding themselves in the same kind of situation that United is in. It really affects all the carriers, but it appears that Delta and United are more severely affected, where the regional aircraft, and in the case of Delta, the E-175, the Embraer that they fly, there's a particular shortage of pilots because those folks are graduating up into larger aircraft. So the latest word from Delta, which is within the last month, is that they do not believe, obviously, that they will be able to come back in 2022 in the summer, but they are hoping that they will be able to come back in early 2023. So that's their target at this point. So we're definitely still in there. It's just a matter of them resolving some of their staffing issues.
Okay, and then also any update on Southwest to Sacramento or San Jose?
Well, they continue to be interested and look at the analysis of those markets for potential additions. I should mention too that their Denver service is doing quite well, so it's entirely possible we could see a frequency increase there. I think for Sacramento and San Jose, really the key factor there is a robust return of government interaction in Sacramento. In other words, business and government interacting in Sacramento, and then particularly for San Jose, also business travel. So the return of business travel has eluded us to a large degree still. And when that return begins to become more evident, obviously there'll be a closer look at those markets. So there is good potential there for sure.
Thank you, Deanna, and I wish you well in your new endeavor, and you will be sorely missed.
Thank you.
This darn mute button. Don't you all wish kids had a mute button? Teenagers at least, which they probably wish I had one. So Mo, now is the time to see if we have any public comment on the director's report. So could you solicit that, please?
Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, would you please use the raised hand icon in the upper right portion of your screen? And Chair Arcuri, we have 2 raised hands so far. Let's start with Carl Hopkins. Carl, you've been unmuted. Can you unmute yourself and begin speaking?
Certainly. You can hear me?
Yes.
Under the director's report, there was under capital projects, they discussed the taxiway hotel environmental assessment, the airfield marking signage and lighting update, the terminal expansion and parking garage project, and the airport master plan update. But other than that, there wasn't any detail given. Will that be given later in the capital projects presentation or not? That was my only comment, or actually my only question, because I would like more information on all of those items. That's all.
Thank you, former Commissioner Hopkins. Who do we have next, Mo?
Jennifer Berger has her hand raised. Jennifer, if you would unmute yourself and begin speaking.
Hi, Mo. Hi. We just wanted to say thank you to Levi for bringing that up. And we do want to wish Deanna the very, very best. And we're just looking forward to it. And hopefully we will have everything all solved. And we just appreciate it. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Mo, do we have any other raised hands?
There are no other raised hands.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. As I mentioned before we called the meeting to order, these are universally very routine matters. And so I'm going to read the 3 items on the consent calendar rather than individually, and then ask if there's any commission member questions on any of those 3 items, any public comment on any of those 3 items, and then we'll ask for a motion to approve them as read. So the first item on the consent calendar regards the minutes of the last meeting, and the recommendation is that the Airport Commission waive the reading and approve the minutes of the commission meeting that was held on Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. The second item is the property management report for January 2022, and the recommendation being that the Airport Commission received the monthly airport property management report. And the last item on the consent calendar is a lease agreement with, and Mo, I keep hearing you pronounce it Innovati, and I pronounce it Innovative. So I apologize to that company for which one of us is pronouncing it incorrectly. But anyway, a lease agreement for Innovative Technology, Inc., and the recommendation that the Airport Commission approve and authorize the airport director to execute a 3-year with, I believe that probably meant to say a 3-year lease, but I'll read it as written. Execute a 3-year, comma, with 2 1-year lease options to extend lease agreement with Innovative Technology, DBA Innovata, a Delaware corporation for approximately 4,062 square feet of office and light manufacturing space at 1522 Cook Place at Santa Barbara Airport for an annual rent of $75,553.20 exclusive of utilities. So those are the three items on the consent calendar. Do I have any airport commit? Well, I guess we'll have to go down a kind of a quick roll call. So Mo, I'll do that myself. Commissioner Reed, do you have any questions on the consent calendar?
I do not know.
Commissioner Glazier, do you have any questions on the consent calendar?
No questions, but happy to see CPI riders built into our leases. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Maya?
No questions.
Commissioner Bowen?
No questions.
Vice Chair Houghton?
No questions.
And I don't have any questions. Mo, could you solicit from the public if there are any speakers who wish to speak on the consent calendar? Mo, your lips are moving again.
There we go. Okay, members of the public, if you'd use the raised hand icon to indicate if you would like to make a comment. And Chair Curry, at this point, there are no raised hands.
Just imagine how many man and woman minutes are spent on Zoom with people talking and saying, oh, I'm on mute. Okay, still no hands?
Still no hands.
Okay, I would love to hear a commissioner make a motion to approve the consent calendar, the three items on the consent calendar as I read them.
I make the motion.
That sounds like that's Commissioner Glazier.
So moved.
Right?
Maya, then Glazier.
Okay, so Maya made the motion, Mo, Commissioner Glazier seconded it. And could you do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Glazier?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowen?
Aye.
Commissioner Maya?
Yes.
Vice Chair Houghton?
Aye.
Chair Arcuri?
Yes, indeed.
The motion passed.
Alrighty, with that, we'll move on to the last item, which is an administrative report. This is a presentation regarding airport capital improvements, and we would love to receive that staff presentation.
Okay. Sorry, Sarah, I just was going to introduce this item and introduce you. So Sarah Isa is our land development manager or development manager. We're still kind of figuring out what the appropriate title is so people will understand what it is that she does for us here. But I would describe it that if it's related to a project, she's involved. And that might mean it's a city project, city funded, or it could be grant funded as well. But also we have projects that are done by people who have leases with us. And sometimes there are projects that are outside of city jurisdiction, and it could be a City of Goleta project. And so she's our project person. That's my simple way of describing it. If it's a project with a tangible component to it, she will be involved. And she's been with us since December and is prepared tonight to give an update on some of our key capital projects. So hopefully I didn't say anything incorrect there, Sarah, but take it away, please.
All correct. Thank you, Mr. Demore. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and Council Member Liaisons. Thank you for the introduction, Brian. You nailed it. I've been here 2 months exactly today, so I'm getting up to speed on everything. And if I make any mistakes, please feel free to jump in and correct me, or I can take questions at the end. But tonight's a brief high-level summary of our capital improvement projects going on. And first, I'd like to describe our division. So it's called the Land Development Division. And within that division is also Brad Cleansing. He's a supervising engineer. And Phil Davis, he's a project engineer, brand new, but has also been with the city for a while. And then we have a new engineering technician, Tiana Herrera, who just started last week, and she's fantastic. We're also recruiting for a project planner position, and we hope to get that person in here very soon. But we also work really closely with all of the other divisions here at the airport delivering projects. And I'd just like to thank everyone so far for bringing me up to speed after being away for 17 years and just continually offering to help. It's a great place to work. Also, in addition to the projects that I'm going to be talking about tonight, there are many more on our list, but these are just the highlights. So again, please feel free to ask questions at the end. Next slide, please. So I've divided the presentation into 4 main areas. Our planning projects, additional funding opportunities, intermediate projects, and then long-term projects. So for planning projects, we have, and this was brought up earlier in the meeting, a master plan update on our schedule. And last week, we just released the request for qualifications to consultants to bid on it, and that is publicly available on Planet Bids. We hope to get a contract going by June of this year, and hopefully the master plan update will be finished by the end of 2023. It's an update to the 2017 master plan, and it's just taking a fresh look at what was in there, revalidating some assumptions that we made in terms of the FBO relocation that's also going on at the same time. And also incorporating sea level rise vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. At the same time, we also have a local coastal plan update going on, and then we are also starting a sea level rise vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan very soon. And both of those projects will be funded by the California Coastal Commission, we've learned, very soon. Next slide, please. So before I jump into the specific projects, I'd like to talk about some additional funding opportunities that we've just recently learned about. I'm sorry? Okay. So the bipartisan infrastructure law was passed in November 2021. Money will be going to all of the airports in the United States, and Santa Barbara will be receiving $3.7 million this year. Those projects are mostly for sustainability initiatives and equity projects, and also hazard reduction. And they must be spent on the air side. And if it's related more towards the airfield and the terminal, the better. We've had a few planning meetings to look at how to spend that money, and it seems that the best kind of bang for our buck at this point is to do a big sewer improvement project. And I can speak more about that. And then also get some of our green sustainability initiatives going at the same time. Also, we participate in a local hazard mitigation plan, which is, it's by FEMA and Cal OES, and it's a citywide, actually a countywide project where we identify potential hazards that need potential mitigation funding. So I've identified several. It's actually recently been updated. And for the airport, it's mostly various flood-proofing opportunities. So that is on the horizon. And then, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the California Coastal Commission, it looks like they will be funding us about $500,000 to update our local coastal plan, also perform sea level rise studies, and do some adaptation planning. And all 3 of those elements are needed for the Taxiway Hotel extension, which I will be speaking about in a moment. So these are all necessary studies for us to continue to implement our master plan. The California Coastal Commission will be meeting in March, and I understand that we will be receiving the money shortly after that. Next slide, please. So again, I mentioned we're not talking about all of the projects. I'm just hitting on some of the highlights tonight. I wanted to start with some intermediate projects, things that you will probably be seeing, what you will probably see happening this year around the terminal and the airport. We will be constructing a service animal relief station area. It's also called the Sarah Project, which is kind of funny. But it's basically, it's going to be in the front of the terminal, and it's going to be up to standard. There is a standard for it, and we currently don't meet it. So it's to meet that requirement. And the next is a lactation station. It will be in the sterile area upstairs in the terminal. Again, that's another requirement for an airport our size, and it needs to be in by the federal fiscal year this year. And then a much bigger one is the airfield marking lighting and signage plan, which is in design right now. We're actually nearing final design. That is to renumber and re-letter basically the entire airfield and redo the lighting. And that will be in 2023. And I've got a map here. If you could go to the next slide, please, Maureen. So all of the blue projects are the intermediate projects. Sorry, I'm having trouble saying. So you can see the two at the terminal, and then the airfield marking, lighting, and signage will actually be all over the airfield. There is a circle in the middle, but it'll be all over the entire airfield. Next slide, please. And then here are some long-term projects. We've spent quite a bit of time in the past couple of months planning out how all of these big elements are going to kind of fit together and overlap as we move forward and look towards updating our master plan. So a big one that was also mentioned tonight is the Southfield redevelopment. And thank you, Deanna, for answering those questions. So we have construction starting in September of this year when Atlantic will move in, and finishing in January 2023. Also the terminal expansion project, along with the parking garage. We've been interviewing consultants this week for design of that project. And we've been also looking a lot closer at the funding for both of those elements. We have construction not starting until 2027, which will be about 2 years, 2 years of construction. And again, the terminal expansion is approximately 16,000 square feet, and the parking garage is in the 700 spot range. Actually, tomorrow we'll be wrapping up the interviews on that and hope to get a consultant selected and a contract going right away. And then a really big one is the taxiway H extension. We are looking at construction starting in October 25 and going through mid 2027. That one is another one that has a lot of planning and design ahead of it and a lot of policy work that needs to happen. So we're getting started on the policy work right now. Some has been done, but we need to finish it. And then the airport administration relocation. So the building we're in 601 Firestone Road is planned to go away with the FBO relocation project. We don't have a definite home yet, but we have a few options, and those are all identified in the master plan. And that would be between November 23 and end of 24. Ideally, it's probably going to be a little bit longer though. And then lastly, for another one of the long-term projects is the FBO relocation. We have a consultant working on what we call phase 2 of this project, where they are working on design of some options. We will be doing a charrette and some public outreach with it. And then eventually it will turn into an RFP for FBOs to construct 2 leaseholds of equal size on the north side of the airfield. And ideally that would be between 2025 and 2027. So you can see in the mid 2020s, mid to late 2020s, there are going to be several projects going on at the airport. And next slide, please. And all of those are in the red boxes. So you can see the red is basically all over the entire airfield, and a lot of it will be happening at the same time. So we're spending a lot of time looking at how these projects will coincide and sequence together. Next slide, please. And then this is our ASIP summary. I just wanted to touch briefly on our funding. As you all know, a lot of our funding, most of it, 90.66% of our funding for the airfield improvements come from FAA. And then we provide 9.34% in local match. So this, I don't expect anyone to look into the details here, but I certainly can provide it. And in fact, this table has changed since I I provided it to Maureen last week. You can get a brief idea of the numbers that we're looking at there. And a lot of those numbers are really just for planning purposes. They're not final yet. Next slide, please. And that's all that I have tonight. I'm happy to take questions. You're welcome to contact me with any questions. Glad to provide them answers.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Sounds like it's going to be a boring mid-decade. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm still thinking 1997 and 98 wasn't that long ago, but it was 30 years ago. Sarah, I have a couple of questions. Can you give an example or two? One would be fine. Earlier in one of the slides, sustainability initiatives. What is that with regard to?
Mm-hmm. So we have a sustainability master plan that actually Brad Cleansing pulled together right before I joined. And it looks at solar initiatives at the airport, charging stations, all kinds of green improvements. And we're working closely with the city's new sustainability and resilience team. We meet with them regularly, and they are really good at finding ways to optimize bundling projects together. So we pay them an allocated cost and they help us through the process. And the next thing that you will see is a terminal lighting improvement. We actually just gave them the account number today to go ahead and spend the money. The lights inside the terminal will be replaced with LEDs very soon. And that's a significant cost savings to the airport as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then I'm sorry, I have to make a comment on this. There are standards for animal relief stations. Is there a federal register of how one designs a place for animals to go potty?
Yes, and so Aaron can speak more to it, or maybe Andrew. They're more familiar with the specifics, but yes, that's correct. And there is one, if you're really familiar with the terminal, which I'm sure a lot of you are, there is a service animal relief area behind the terminal, but it is not up to the standard.
Got it. I don't think we need any further explanation of what those standards are. On the airfield remarking, is it a correct statement that all of the taxiways are going to be re-alphabetized? In other words, what was Bravo won't be Bravo anymore, it'll be something else, et cetera?
That's correct. And Aaron can give you a little bit more information, specifics, if you're still here.
Well, I guess my specific regarding that would be, and it's way in advance, but I'm sure, Aaron, we'd have to put together all kinds of documentation and kind of information for pilots who may have been flying in and out of this airport for 20 years. It just sounds like an invitation for incursions. So I don't even think that, Aaron, would you just confirm that in addition to the planning for doing all that, part of that planning involves outreach to both commercial and private pilots?
Certainly, Chair Curry, that is the case in brief, and we're going to be reaching out via multiple methods. One, through the FBO directly. We've discussed putting signs up on each individual gate, and we're working with Mead & Hunt, who is our consultant on the matter. They've handled much larger scale projects at other facilities, to include LAX, for example. So if LAX can pull this off, we can certainly pull it off here. It will be challenging, and we will make sure everyone is educated and appropriate NOTAMs are issued, because we certainly don't want 2 taxiway Bravos out there at any given time.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Aaron. And then my last question, Sarah, you mentioned terminal expansion, and I'm sure many of us remember all the teeth gnashing we did when we built that new terminal and wondered aloud, why on earth did we make it so big? Here we are working on expanding it and running out of parking spaces for commercial airplanes. And, while that creates some challenges for the community, it brings a lot of people into the community to spend money. And so I'm really glad we had the foresight a decade and a half ago to do what we did. And that's the only questions I had. Commissioner Reed, do you have any questions on Sarah's report?
I do not know.
Commissioner Glazer, do you have any questions on Sarah's report?
No, I do not. Thank you for the update. Very interesting.
Commissioner Glazer, if I may, thank you also for participating in the consultant interviews for the terminal expansion. I meant to mention that.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it, and it seems like we've got quite a nice slate of people lined up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maya, do you have any questions on Sarah's report?
No questions. Thanks, Sarah.
Commissioner Bowen?
No questions, thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Vice Chair Houghton.
No questions, but I must say it's exciting to see the plans underway.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's going to be a busy mid-century. Okay. How could I forget? Mo, could you solicit the public to see if we have any raised hands on Sarah's capital improvement report?
Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, would you please use the raised hand icon, and that indicates that you would like to make a comment. And Chair Arcuri, we do not have any raised hands.
Alrighty. Well, I will thank everybody, both commissioners.
Oh, but I will say that Kyle Richards is raising his hand.
Well, I think because he's a council member, I think he gets to raise his hand pretty much anytime. So go ahead.
Thank you for calling on me. I was worried that you weren't going to. I just wanted to say, Sarah, it was very good to hear your report. I really appreciate a heads up about what's coming, in the future for the airport. I think these look like great improvements. I mean, what a great investment in our community. And of course, this will have an impact on our neighbor, and I'm really glad you're in this position because I have a lot of faith that we'll be able to work together well. So thank you, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Likewise.
Terrific. Well, with that, I want to thank the new members, our interim director, who's now made it through his second airport commission meeting, Sarah, and wishing Deanna well. We'll hope everybody is able to join us in the public or more for our next commission meeting, which will be held on March 16th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And with that, I will adjourn this February 23rd, 2022 Airport Commission meeting. Thank you all for attending.